Hello and welcome to the Franchise Tag Podcast preview show. We are previewing Week 10. I've got Adam joining me as usual to go over all the games. We've already had one game already.
Yeah, wasn't exactly amazing, was it?
No, I think it shocked a lot of people the way it panned out, the way the Ravens played. Any thoughts or take from it before we go into this week's fixtures?
That if the Dolphins defense can carry on doing that, they'll go back to what they were in 2020. And I think that it probably shows that, unfortunately, when it comes to the Ravens, they can throw in a bit of a stinker every now and then, and that might be enough to stop them.
Yeah, they've fallen under this problem before in previous years. But yeah, that Dolphins defense definitely looked like the defense that we thought it was going to be against for the whole season, just against the Ravens. So yeah, fingers crossed they do improve from that. So let's get straight into it. Let's go for it. First up on my list is Falcons versus Cowboys.
Personally, I think the Cowboys will win it. I think they're going to be too strong offensively. They struggled last week. I think they're going to want to put that right. I think they're going to go for it. And at home, I think they're going to be too strong for the Falcons. Although I do think the Falcons, they'll put up points. I think it'll be quite a high-scoring game. But yeah, I'm going to go for the Cowboys in this one.
Yeah, I'm not, just because I just want the Cowboys to lose all the time. But the Falcons are on a bit of a roll at the minute. They do look a bit more impressive than they have been at the start of the season. AJ Terrell at cornerback's been absolutely fantastic, as well as Trayvon Diggs. So, I think there's improvement on the Falcons. I think Matt Ryan's playing well. So the Cowboys did look really poor last week. So it's just whether they can bounce back from that. But I'm just going to say Falcons because I want them to win.
I think the Falcons have got a good shot at it. I mean, despite the fact they've lost Calvin Ridley, they are still putting up points, and Matt Ryan's looking decent. So I think they got a chance, but I just think the Cowboys are going to make a bit of a statement after last week.
Yeah, they need to, don't they, to cement themselves back in the talk about getting to the Super Bowl? Because I think if they have another bad week, people will forget about them. We've only just started talking about them. So
yeah,
the next game on the list: Saints versus Titans.
Yeah, I think is it going to be Trevor Siemian?
I believe so. I think going forward, they're going to use him after the previous weeks as the main starting quarterback, and they'll filter in Taysom Hill as he becomes more fitter and used to sort of back to play. And I think if Siemian makes any mistakes, Taysom Hill's right there to take it on.
Yeah, I think the Titans are probably going to be just a little bit too strong. They coped really well about Derrick Henry against the Rams last week, so I think that won't be a problem for them. Adrian Peterson has looked okay when he came in for that first game, so I could see him doing a similar thing. I think it'd be quite tight. I think it'd be quite a low-scoring game as well. There's no Alvin Kamara, so that's a big problem for the Saints. So I'm going to go for the Titans, but I do think the -3 on the Titans isn't the worst bet in the world.
Yeah, we've only really seen one game from the Titans without Derrick Henry. I don't know whether there was a lot of right, we need to focus on winning this one, improve a point. I don't know whether there's an element of that in there. I think this will be a tough game. I think the Saints are on their day. I think they're underrated this season a little bit. I think they could beat anyone, but they've just not managed to stay consistent.
Yeah.
But having said that, I do think you're right. I think that the Titans will edge this one. I think it's going to be close, but I think, for me, the Titans quarterback and wide receiving core looks more talented than what the Saints are doing on offense at the moment. So for me, it's got to be the Titans as well. On to our next game. But not sure if this is an interesting one for many people out there. It's the Jaguars versus the Colts.
I don't think it's going to be a particularly. It's not going to be one that everyone's going to be watching. But I think the Colts will win it. The Colts looked very impressive against the Jets last time. They've had that extra bit of time off because it was a Thursday night game as well. I really like Michael Pittman in this game. You've been banging on about him for ages. I think anytime touchdown, 11-10, anyone who's just seen my video go out earlier, Pittman's included in it. Yeah, I think Pittman is a good shout, and I think the Colts could potentially blitz them. I know the Jags defense did okay against the Bills, but the Bills seemed a bit like they were off that day for whatever reason. So yeah, I think the Colts will probably blitz them, to be honest.
Yeah, everything seems to be clicking for the Colts at the moment. The defense looked better last week, and the offense, Carson Wentz seems to have got them rolling. And now Derrick Henry is out of the league. Jonathan Taylor's kind of the front runner with Nick Chubb of who's going to be the rushing leader this year. So I think he's got a lot to play for, and he's going to be buzzing to try and take that title. So I think you're going to get a little bit extra out of him as well, just on the basis of that. And he is having a great season. As you said, Michael Pittman seems to be in the end zone every single week. He hasn't let me down in any of my accumulators I've had over the last few weeks. So, yeah, I just think the Jaguars just aren't strong enough. And I think Trevor Lawrence is going to struggle against this defense. I think it does a lot of different reads and a lot of different players coming down from the secondary, linebackers moving back. So I think that might confuse him a little bit. So, yeah, for me, it's Colts easy win. I think they'll roll them as well. So, yeah, fully agreeing with you on that one. Next up, a lot more of an interesting game. I think this is one to watch. I think Browns versus Patriots.
Yeah, I think it will be an interesting game. I mean, especially now that Damian Harris is out, that's kind of like their main running back. So I think it's going to be a tale of two strong defenses. Again, I can see quite a low scoring game coming from this one. One guy that I think would be interesting to look out for is Austin Hooper. I mean, there's someone who seems to be getting a few more targets in the last few weeks. One bet I did see for him was over 2.5 receptions at 33-20. So that's not the worst in the world. I think the Browns might be just a little bit too strong, especially now that Damian Harris is out. So I'm going to go for the Browns on this one, just because I think we've seen before that Dearness Johnson has shown how good he can be. So that run game's still going to be just as good as what it normally is. And yeah, I feel like the Patriots, although they've got some other running backs there, I think they're going to struggle without Harris.
Yeah, I'm a bit conflicted on this one because the Patriots have started to get it going, and they're close to making a good push for a wild card spot. I mean, they're only one game back, aren't they, from the Bills at the moment?
Yeah.
With the Bills still to play, so I think we're gonna see a bit more out of them. It's been a bit more of a year of them actually being in the race than seeing what they can do with their rookie quarterback and see if they can build and progress on it. They're actually quite a decent outfit at the moment with that defense. Every time that they've blown teams out and brought in their backup running backs, they've all looked equally as impressive. When Harris has been sidelined having a bit of a rest, Bolden, Stevenson, Taylor, they've all come in and they've all done well. You're going to see another committee. You're going to see 3 different running backs coming on. And, I think that helps them a little bit. Yes, it's not Harris and Harris taking the main load, but equally the Browns this week, for me, they've got a lot going on. They've got COVID taken out a lot of their players. They've had the whole Odell Beckham Jr. saga. Jarvis Landry's trying to come back as best he can from an injury, but he doesn't look fully fit. Baker Mayfield's got again getting the critics questioning whether he is good enough to take this team all the way through the playoffs. So I think this week there's a lot going on there, and the Patriots are quietly going about their business. So I think it's going to be a fairly high-scoring game, and I'm going to go for the Patriots for this one.
I think it's interesting that you say that, because to me, the fact that Odell is not there anymore is a positive, because it seemed to be the problem. It's like every time he was on the field, there seemed to be almost this sort of expectation that, of course, Baker's going to throw it to him. It's Odell, obviously. And that was the problem, that it kind of almost felt a little bit like he was the distraction, and by getting rid of the distraction, you just kind of feel like actually it might not be so bad for them. I think the other thing with the Browns I've got to mention is that I think the Ravens have really opened the door now with the Bengals on bye. And also, we'll talk about the Steelers later, but they're without their quarterback. You do sort of feel like this is the Browns' opportunity to try and push up now.
Yeah, when you talk about Odell leaving solving the issue, well, I think the issue for me is where there might be some question marks, is that if the other receivers don't perform in this game, are they going to then be going, well, we shouldn't have let Odell go? And that's, for me, there's a lot of pressure on that. The other guys that play with him, Donovan Peoples-Jones and Higgins, they're fairly young guys, and there's a lot of pressure on them to fill the boots, because Jarvis Landry is a slot receiver predominantly. So deep threat-wise that OBJ would be, I just think that they'll be blamed that they shouldn't have let him go if it doesn't work. So for me, that's where the cause is the issue. We'll move on to the next game. This needs to be a good game. It's Bills versus Jets.
Yeah, it could well be. I think it'll be interesting to see how Mike White does against such a good defense. I think this would be really interesting. You can't not go for the Bills, to be brutally honest. It's like you're mad if you're going for the Jets in this one. But you have to think in the same way as the Cowboys. You got to think Josh Allen and the Bills' offense are going to want to prove a point. The Jets, they've looked better since Mike White has been there, and also they didn't look too bad with is it Johnson, the other? They didn't look that bad with him in there either. So they have looked a little bit better, and also a lot more attacking, which I think is a good thing for them. But you got to go for the Bills, haven't you? So.
Yeah, the Bills are going to want to come out and really stamp their authority on this game after last week. So, if anything, we said in the review show that the Bills' defense was still really strong, despite losing last week. So that said, has Mike White seen the best defense in NFL currently? No, he's not. So, that's going to be a different challenge for him, despite the fact he really makes the offense look a bit more exciting. They have been a bit more interesting to watch. I think it'll be fascinating against that front four. Your boy, Rousseau. It'll be interesting to see what happens to Mike White. Hopefully he can rack up some sacks and he might get back in the running for defensive rookie of the year. But I think Bills really need to stamp their authority on this game, and I think they're going to have to. So I can't see the Jets keeping up with them, even if they go toe to toe at the start of the game. I think Bills through 4 quarters are going to be way too strong for them, and they're just going to push away. And I don't think Jets will have the answers. So it's Bills for me on that one. This is the game that you wanted to talk about that you previously just mentioned. We're going Lions versus Steelers.
Yeah, the news came out this morning, didn't it? That Big Ben's out because of, is it COVID?
Is it COVID?
It's because of COVID. I think he's not around for this game. You got Chase Claypool out. You got Juju Smith-Schuster out. There's not a lot on that offense now. I really like Pat Freiermuth for he's 2-1 anytime touchdown scorer. I think that's one to look out for. Also, over 3.5 receptions for him. The ball's going to have to go somewhere. That it can't just be constant Najee Harris. So it's literally going to be Freiermuth and Deontay Johnson. I don't know. I originally had the Steelers. I still think the Steelers will win it. I don't think the Lions are good enough. But the +6.5 on the Lions suddenly does become slightly more interesting. But at it's quite a short price, so I don't think I'll be bothering. I think I'll still stick with the Steelers. Yeah,
I think Steelers are going with Mason Rudolph rather than Dwayne Haskins, I believe. for me, I'm not sure whether that's the right decision. I think Dwayne Haskins would be the better decision, but I'm not the coach. So there's a lot of injuries. There's a lot of missing pieces from that Steelers offense. So that is going to play a big factor. Rudolph has played lots of games in the NFL. It's not as if he's a beginner. He knows what to do. He's been in the big games. We've seen him play in the big rivalry clashes and things like that. So I think he's got the ability to know what needs to be done. Big Ben wasn't getting a whole lot done on the offense himself. Not like previous years where we've seen him throw in for like 50 times a game racking up like 5,000 yards for the season. He's not having a season like that. It has been Najee Harris. So I think that's going to complement and really assist for Rudolph. So I'm going to stick with the Steelers. I think they've got something good going on at the moment. I don't think the Lions are capable of competing with that defense because the defense is still very, very strong. So I'm going to stick with the Steelers for this one as well. I just don't see enough from the Lions to say, you can beat a beat-up Steelers. Okay, we'll move on to the last one of our early kickoffs, and that's the Buccaneers versus the Washington football team.
I think this has to go to the Bucs, doesn't it? I mean, Washington have just been poor, really, for most of the season. I think the Bucs are looking decent. I really like Mike Evans in this game. I think Antonio Brown's out, Gronk's out. Not 100% sure about Godwin at the moment. I think Mike Evans, 21 to 20 anytime. He has had 8 touchdowns so far this season, and no one's really talking about him that much. So I think Evans will be highly targeted by Brady. And I think the Bucs will win it, and I think they'll probably win it quite easily, to be honest.
Do we know who is starting quarterback for Washington this week? There was talk about Fitzmagic being back. I haven't checked it.
I don't know, and I don't think it's going to make much difference, to be honest.
Hey, do you not think he's got a bit of magic left in him?
He might do, but not against the Bucs.
No, he's still on injured reserve. It's still Heineke. Heineke's still in there. He's still playing for his life. I can't see Washington contending with the Buccaneers again. Just like the Steelers with their loss. I mean, they're still questionable. All of the players for the Broncos. They're not definitely out, are they?
No.
I think a lot of them are game time decisions, but equally, the people that are waiting in the wings to fill those positions have proved when they've got their chance, they can do it. We've seen it this season, and we saw it last season. They've got a lot of youngsters in that wide receiving core just waiting in the wings, and they're all very impressive. So Mike Evans is there to be the veteran head to lead them, and you'll see a lot of Brady's never afraid to throw the ball to a receiver we've not heard lots of. We saw him do it numerous times in New England. He'd turn unknown players into household names. So I think they'll be fine. I think the Buccaneers will win that comfortably. And again, we're just not seen Washington perform up to the standard, and that's never good going up against a team that's a Super Bowl contender. So we move into our late games. First up is the Panthers versus the Cardinals.
I think this could be an interesting game for many reasons. I mean, obviously Sam Darnold is gone. Cam's going to be on the sideline just waiting to come on, but I don't think he's going to be this week. So they're going with PJ Walker, who is going to probably struggle a little bit. I think because of that, they're going to rely heavily on Christian McCaffrey. He's over 15.5 rush attempts, is 20 to 23. I think that's he had 14 last week with Darnold in for most of the game. I think that will probably easily happen. Another little bit I saw was PJ Walker under 0.5 interceptions it's going to be the run game, and that was at 7-4. That's not a bad price. It's a bit of a punt, but it's not a bad price. And I think you'll probably find that because they rely so heavily on the run game, he's not going to be making any big throws. So I think they're your bets for it. But even without Kyler Murray, we saw last week how good the Cardinals can be. So I think they will probably win it relatively easily.
Yeah, it's going to be almost like watching somewhat of a week one game because they're, without Kyler Murray, DeAndre Hopkins is out as well. Chase Edmonds is out. And then on the Panthers, again, you've got a lot, you could be seeing. I think that if PJ Walker will start, if he doesn't get it going, I think, Cam Newton is eligible to come straight on and play. There's an element of he knows what to do at this team. It's not as if he's got to pick up a whole new playbook and develop a relationship with people he's never played with before. He could just, what have they got to lose? What have they got to lose by throwing him in? If anything, it could spark a bit of interest, really.
Yeah.
And they could roll with that. We see it in other sports when they sack the manager, the following week, they come out and win. I know it's slightly similar, not the same, but you could see that the element of like, something might happen now. We might do something interesting. So I don't know what to expect from the Cardinals. They were fantastic last week without all the names that we've just said. And I'd like to think there's going to be more of that. They have proven me wrong, and I am excited to watch them every week still. They've not let me down in that aspect. I thought they'd slow down. I didn't think they'd continue it, but they have done. So I think in my head, I think Arizona will win this easy. But I put a question mark on this game for this one to potentially be an upset. I don't think the Panthers are good enough, but I think this could be an upset if there's going to be one, if I'm going to try and pick one out of all the games this week.
Yeah.
But my heart says that the Cardinals are winning this one. I have no logic saying they're going to win this one, but I will just like to put it out there that I did say this one could be an upset. Hopefully there's more touchdowns from James Conner as well. Hopefully they just give the ball.
Yeah.
That's great for me. Okay, our next game. This could be an interesting game. I think it's two teams that are there and thereabouts, but not quite there. And that's the Vikings versus the Chargers.
Yeah, I think the one thing that I noticed when I was looking at this game is how bad both of these teams are against the run. I mean, they are shocking. So Dalvin Cook, for obvious reasons, got included in the accumulator. But also Austin Eckler as well. I mean, both of them, they're both bad against the run. I think it'd be quite a high scoring game. I'm going for the Chargers, predominantly because they're at home, predominantly because I'm a Green Bay fan and I want to see the Vikings lose. So, but yeah, I think the Chargers just, although they haven't been quite as explosive on offense as what they were last year, I think they have the potential to be. Whereas I think when it comes to Kirk Cousins, you know what you're getting, and you know that it's going to be predominantly Dalvin Cook. And so I think if it does end up being a high scoring game, that the Chargers at home could probably outscore them.
Yeah, it's, when the run game is going to be that good, it's going to free up play action.
Yeah.
And I think both teams have the potential with the receivers they've got. Do we know if Keenan Allen is going to play or not? I believe he was questionable going into today.
I think he is, but it's one of them game time decision things. So
having said that, if he's not fully fit and he's not going to play, they're going to rely heavily on Mike Williams, who's playing well. But on the flip side of that, the Vikings have Jefferson and Thielen. And I think when it comes to that and your heavily run game play action, I think that could play a big factor into it. Like I said, I think they're very, very evenly matched on paper. But for me, the Chargers are still a little bit immature when it comes to the bigger games. And for both these teams, this is a big game because it's a 50-50 game. And as Freddie would always bang on about, to move to the next level, you need to be winning the 50-50 game. So I think this is a big game for both of them. And I think Vikings have just got a bit more maturity and been there and done it a bit more than the Chargers. So for me, I'm going to side with the Vikings for this game. Sorry, you went with the Cowboys.
Outrageous.
Okay, so we'll move on to the next game. Eagles versus Broncos.
Yeah, I think this one could be quite a tight game. We've seen a lot from the Eagles, the run game, ever since Miles Sanders has gone, actually. We've seen how good the run game is with multiple different guys. One I did look at, and I didn't include it in anything, but Jordan Howard is 5-2 anytime touchdown. I mean, he's 3 out of the last 2 games. So, he's a good choice. But I do feel the Broncos at home, I think they could just sneak it. That defense, even without Von Miller, showed against the Cowboys how good it can be. Teddy Bridgewater stepped up a little bit as well. It's like, it wasn't all just the defense. So I think if they can get on a bit of a run, then I think they might be able to do something. And they're in a division that is wide open. And so they have the potential to do something that maybe they weren't necessarily thinking that they might be able to. I think the Broncos will just sneak it, but I do think it'll be quite tight.
Yeah, the Eagles have surprised a lot of us this year, and they have performed better than what we thought. But I said prior to the season starting that the Broncos team on paper still looks so strong. It's had its injury worries all through the season, but everybody seems to be back. Teddy Bridgewater's properly back. Jerry Jeudy's back. So they've got Jeudy, Sutton, I think Fant's back.
Yeah, Fant's back. Yeah.
They've got Tim Patrick, who's playing well. Melvin Gordon, they've got Javonte Williams sitting in the wings waiting for his chance to just come in. And every time he comes in, he's brilliant. But Melvin Gordon's just playing too well for them to make the transition. So, 2 great running backs at the moment, a plethora of wide receivers. The defense is clicking, and Steady Teddy is doing the business. I think that, for me, is too strong for the Eagles, who they're not fantastic every week. Some weeks they look good, some weeks they don't. They're still trying to find their identity of what to do. Some weeks their wide receivers show up and have great games. Sometimes they're just not there and they go run game. They need to find out exactly who they are. I think Broncos know that already. So for me, at Mile High Stadium as well, I think the Broncos might win this comfortably. Again, the Eagles might stay with them and make it interesting. But I think, over 4 quarters, I think the Broncos are too strong. And the defense will definitely get them good field position, which is key to that. So yeah, for me, it's the Broncos in that one as well. This is fallen quite well for the last of the late window for us lot. Is the Seahawks versus the Packers, and Russell Wilson is back.
Yeah, I mean, I looked at it. To be honest, there isn't any bet for it, to be brutally honest. I think it'll be quite close. Rodgers is back. Wilson is back. I think I read that the Seahawks haven't won at Lambeau Field since 1999, or something like that. I think it will continue. I think the Packers will win it. Rodgers, I can imagine that there might be a little bit of rust because he hasn't really practiced with them this week. But at the same time, I'm not a fan of that Seahawks defense. I think that's the problem for them. And although, DK Metcalf and Tyler Lockett will probably do okay, losing Chris Carson still is a problem. I think the Packers will win, obviously. But I think I'm not quite sure what the score will be. I don't think it'll be comfortable, but I do think they'll win it, and they'll probably keep the Seahawks relatively at arm's length. I mean, the line is 3.5 in favor of the Packers. I'm not sure whether I could imagine them winning by about 4 or 5 points, something like that. So.
Yeah, I think people forget that at the start of the season, Russell Wilson wasn't injured, and they weren't great.
Yeah.
I think we're all maybe blindsided by the fact that he's coming back. We know how good he is. We know he's a magician, and we think the Seahawks can beat anybody when he's there. But you're right. The defense didn't help him at the start of the season when he was fit. There's going to be no difference here going up against a team that's cemented themselves as one of the most consistent teams this year on both sides of the ball. I think the Packers are a very impressive outfit this year. Whether the magic of Russell Wilson being back might help. He played his whole college career in Wisconsin, so he's no stranger to that area. But for me, the Packers are just too good at the moment. I think that, as I've said, I think they're one of the strongest teams in the NFL currently, and they're knocking on the door of the Bucs and the Bills and the Rams to be up there in that conversation. So, yeah, for me, I think the Packers will edge this one. It could be an interesting game. It could be interesting.
Yeah, I think it will be. The one thing I would say, that the ability to go away to the Chiefs and only lose by 6 with a backup quarterback who was playing his first game just shows how good that defense has become now. But the one thing I would say when it comes to the Seahawks, if they lose this game, they go 3-6, I think. That's almost like you can't have any bad games now if you want to get in the playoffs. And I feel that it's kind of starting to become a bit do or die for some of these teams, and the Seahawks is definitely one of them.
Yeah, I did some research last week into this to see what you would need to score to get a wild card position in the playoffs. And on the AFC side of the table, you needed to get 10 games to even be in the conversation of getting into the wild card. I mean, I think there's going to be some teams that get to 10 and they still miss out. But 10 games is the minimum you have to win in that side. But on the NFC, when I did it, 8 games was enough to qualify for a wild card place. And when I went through the fixtures and looked at it, Seahawks were one of those teams that I had getting to 8 games.
Right.
But they, like you said, they have to win most of their games now. So it's tough for them because they're not going to want to have a season like this on their record and have not qualifying for the playoffs when everyone thought they were going to be so strong. So it's going to be one of them where if they lose this, is it over for the season? And do you look at, not bringing your backups in, not risking anybody, get a good draft pick next year? I don't know. But yeah, you're right. If they do lose this one, it's going to be very hard still to qualify. 8 games is not a lot for that side, but that's going to be a tall order with how many weeks are left. So we move on to the late fixture for us. The if you want to stay up and 20 past 1. I think it's going to be a good game though. It's one worth staying up for, I believe. It's the Chiefs versus the Raiders.
Yeah, I think you could have a lot of points in this game. The Chiefs' defense isn't great. It looked a little bit better against the Packers, but at the same time, the Packers are restricted because of Jordan Love. So I do feel that it could be a high-scoring game. Mahomes over 0.5 interceptions at 10-11. Although he managed the ball a lot better last week, I think it was because it was a low-scoring game. I think if they end up in a bit of a shootout, which is what they did last year when these two teams played, it could well end up with him throwing an interception. The obvious guy for the Raiders, you've got to look at Waller. I think he will be targeted a lot. It's basically him and Renfro at the moment. So I think that will happen. I'm going to go for the Raiders just because I think they are looking, although they had a bit of a rough time last week against your Giants, I think that they do have the ability to pull it out the bag, and Derek Carr's a bit better than what everyone thinks, and that defense has looked a bit better than what everyone thought it was going to be. So I'm going to go for the Raiders in this one. Yeah,
and the Raiders have got Josh Jacobs back fit and healthy now. And, the start of the season before he got injured, he was big for them. He was big in the run game. He was big in catching the ball out the backfield, which is a big weapon to have going into a game like this. Just to drop it off to someone as that talented, which they haven't had in some of the previous games with Kenyon Drake behind there. So, the key to beating the Chiefs at the minute is using what you've got against that defense that's been really poor. I think the Raiders' defense has been good all year. I think it's been consistent. And the Chiefs' offense is now starting to falter a little bit under the pressure. And I think with those two things in hand, I think the Raiders' offense is dynamic enough to find the cracks and weaknesses in this Chiefs team. So, for me, I'm going to go with the Raiders as well. And I think Josh Jacobs is going to have a big game in this one. I think he's going to be key to them winning. So, I'm going to go with Raiders. I'm sticking with you, which is going to be some tough news for the Chiefs that moved 5-5. So it's going to be another tall order from them trying to get to that 10 games. We'll move on to the Monday Night Football. Don't know if you've seen any of the Manning brothers doing any of their clips yet for the. Oh, it's fantastic. If anybody ever, if you can stream it or watch it, you end up watching them a little bit more than the game, which is probably a bad idea. But when it's 1:15 in the morning, it's quite entertaining. And we're gonna get the Rams versus the 49ers.
Yeah, I think we were all a bit shocked last week with the Rams and how they lost to the Titans. Although the Titans are a good team, I think we just assumed that the Rams would win. They're going away in a divisional game to the 49ers. The 49ers haven't looked great. I think Jimmy G, I'm not a massive fan, never have been, but I think he's pretty solid. I don't know. It'll be interesting with the 49ers. They just don't seem to have clicked in the way that they had in previous years. And the Rams have got everyone that they want, apart from obviously losing Robert Woods is a big downside to them. But it'll be an interesting one. There isn't really a bet that I saw that I was that interested in. I mean, there is the Rams at -3.5. I could see that happening. But I think Von Miller's out. He's not playing, is he? Yet, I don't think. They said that he's still got his ankle injury and that they don't think he's going to play. We don't know if OBJ is going to be playing or not. I mean, Van Jefferson is probably one to look out for now that Robert Woods isn't around. Yeah, I'm probably going to go for the Rams to win it, but it's more of a tentative vote than anything else.
Yeah, I think that the 49ers, the last 2 years, have been so unlucky with injuries.
Yeah.
Especially when they're a run-first team and they've invested heavily into having 3-4 really, really strong running backs every year. And every year, they all just get injured. They're all on IR. It's not like small, niggling injuries. They're out for the season. And it's next man up. The next man up performs, out for the season. They've really struggled with that, and they've had a lot of that again this year. I even think Elijah Mitchell's carrying a concussion, isn't he? And then they think he's going to play, but for me, this concussion's a big thing, and that we've seen a lot of people saying, "Oh yeah, it'll be fine," and then it gets to they've got a bit of extra time for him to come back. But Jeff Wilson's back this week, I believe. So he's back last week, but we didn't see any snaps, I think. So they've been obviously holding him back to make sure he is fully fit, which does help them a little bit, I think. But again, the Rams have on the other side of that have managed to stay relatively healthy, bar Woods, and I think they are a real strong unit. Again, like I said, I think they're up there in the top 4 names that you're going to say that are going to be in that conversation still for the Super Bowl. Teams have off weeks, but over the period of the whole season, there's not many of them for this team, so they are very, very strong. I've heard some reports that OBJ will play.
Yeah, I think it's very much a if he's ready to go, kind of thing. I mean, I think fitness-wise, he probably is, but it's more whether he knows the book, isn't it, and the playbook and stuff like that.
I mean, he's been carrying a shoulder injury over the last few weeks, and there's still some niggles of that. He did pass his fitness to go over there, which would indicate that the shoulder injury isn't that serious. I think he's been around the league long enough that you could just throw him in for some plays and say, run around, and if you're open, we'll chuck you the ball. It's Matt Stafford that's thrown it.
Yeah.
He is more than experienced to read the field and pick someone who's open. It doesn't necessarily have to be on point, on the nose of the X of where he's supposed to be. So I think they could throw him in there and he'd be fine. I don't think he needs to learn the playbook overly. He could just run around. He's that talented. But yeah, Van Jefferson, Cooper Kupp are still on that team, and they're both talented receivers. So yeah, for me, the Rams are way too strong for the 49ers currently. So yeah, I think it's going to be a comfortable win. It's a win that they need to cement to top this division. So yeah, it's Rams for me for that one. That is all of our games for week 10. We had some bets in there. Was there any? What's your like? This is the one I'm really confident on this week.
So the touchdown accumulator that I put out earlier, I've got Michael Pittman, Dalvin Cook, and Mike Evans as a treble. I think that's got a very good chance of happening. I do like Pat Freiermuth as a potential touchdown scorer. I think that one is decent. I mean, that's 2-1, so I think that's not a bad one. They're going to have to throw it to someone at some point, and like I say, apart from Deontay Johnson, he's the next one. So I feel like that is likely to happen. There isn't any really big prices, but like I say, if you put a few things together, then you might get yourself a decent one. Like I say, Pat Freiermuth. I think Carolina are going to have to rely on McCaffrey. So I think that's one that could go in. Yeah, I think there's quite a few there, but it's just a matter of finding the right ones to put them together. But yeah, I do like Pittman, Cook, and Evans today.
Yeah, I mean, maybe this could be the week that Jacoby Myers finds the end zone.
You never know. It could.
Yeah, well, I might have a sneaky bet on that because he's not found the end zone all year, despite the fact he's been impressive every week. So I might stick him in an accumulator. I bet the odds are good. Let's have a little look. 9-4.
There you go. Go
Anytime.
for it. I mean, it's amazing that he hasn't. It really is. But I suppose he plays a lot in the slot, doesn't he? But yeah, I mean, hopefully he'll get one eventually.
Yeah, it's got to be there sometime. So that's it for our little week 10 roundup. Best of luck to everybody's teams. Best of luck in your fantasy if you're in on that as well. And we'll be back on Wednesday with the main show, or Tuesday, whichever day it's going out. Not 100% sure. Adam will keep you updated on social media with when we're going out. But till then, guys, thanks for joining us. Bye-bye.